Welcome friends to another 40k video. Today we look at how the Master of Mankind united humanity through his conquest of Terra by defeating the many techno-barbarians that blighted the landscape of the planet. We will look at a few of the more interesting, challenging ones that the Emperor had to go up against. The first is the Achaemenid Empire, which covers Southwest Asia in our world, roughly equivalent of the Persian Empire. It was split into tribal factions and was ruled by a monarchy. We are told they had a culture of truth and discussion. The tribes as part of the empire are wealthy and allied quickly with the emperor's imperium, perhaps recognizing the change of power, the winds of change he brought, and wanting to be a part of it. The Thunder Warriors did not need to be brought in on this occasion. The people's theirs genomes were not contaminated or mutated by any of the nuclear arsenal and biological weapons unleashed on Terra that had assailed many other barbarians, so they were good candidates for the Legio Astartes. Many joined the Thousand Sons Legion, in fact. A belief they did hold to was a belief in the power of their ancestors, and they would wear a ward of the greatest of their kings to protect against harm. Next up, and the country I live in, now known as England, in M40 is called Albia. It houses warlike clans and soot-blackened cities, who often fought with the nearby Pan-Pacific Empire, and we'll come back to them towards the end of the video. Albia was ruled by the unspeakable king, and was aided by the Emperor when facing the Pan-Pacific Empire. When they fought the future Master of Mankind, it's said they used Ironside clan soldiers to face him, and they refused to kneel, and so his force of Thunder Warriors were met by their own proto-dreadnoughts and the Ironside clan soldiers we just mentioned. They held him back, but at a great cost. He was impressed by this resistance, so decided to negotiate. He appeared before them, unarmed. He offered them a place amongst the stars, and they accepted. He then recruited the gene seed for several of his legions. Now remember, of course, this is the Emperor of Mankind in M40. This guy, unarmed, is still incredibly dangerous. And if anyone was going to hurt him, he could probably read their minds and know they were going to take the action before it actually happened to him. So that move to approach them unarmed is not as stupid as it looks. Next we look at the Caucasus Wastes. Its ruler was known as the Ethnarch. He faced the Emperor, and his eventual fate was to be imprisoned. And this was down to the Legio Astartes faction known as the Salamanders. The Emperor at the time had faced several mutated eugenicist oligarchs. They were few in number, but they possessed relic tech and other terrible weapons, and they had great warriors, some that, like the Thunder Warriors, were gene-enhanced, and they also had a coven of psychers to hand. They had strongholds, concealed far underground, and webs to protect against air attacks. A first effort was defeated, with many Thunder Warriors being lost. And just to clarify here, I think the Ethnarch that we mentioned at the start of this little bit is one of these oligarchs. The first thrust of the attack would be by the Salamanders with termite boring machines, and they were tasked with destroying a large geothermal furnace, as this powers the oligarch's defences. To do this, they would have to enter caverns deep underground, dubbed the Tempest Galleries. They gave off flames and electromagnetic forces. The Salamander's power armour was modified and camouflaged, and they burrowed into the ground using the machines of the Mechanicum. Days turned into weeks. The Emperor waits, and this choice is questioned, but he says they will not fail me. Then turbulence was felt, and the power webs fell, and the Emperor was able to destroy what had opposed him, and put the leader in prison. The Salamanders returned in style, shattering a long dormant volcano to emerge back to the surface of Terra. Just over 1,000 of the many sent down had survived. And next we look to a faction known as or covering the area of modern-day France, imaginatively called Frank. They did not like invaders, and one region had retained an independent ruler, and he killed the emperor's appointed governor. The rebellion spread, and the ruler gained thousands of rebels when they faced the forces of the Master of Mankind on a line of hills, and it was dubbed the Battle of Gadoua, where he was ultimately victorious. The next area of techno-barbarians is the Nordic area, approximate to modern Scandinavia. It was attacked by a group of the Emperor's forces, the Thunder Warriors and Custodes, led by the Emperor. The assault was against the Morland-Sen Confederacy. The future Master of Mankind was outnumbered 7-1 and faced genetically engineered warriors and witch-marked men under the Priest King. His forces were defeated, the Priest Kings were. His warriors were captured, and the priest was taken, and the Emperor carried out the execution himself. And the Thunder Warriors at this cried into the air as he lifted the priest's head, and this brought the region into imperial compliance. Another area was Orlok, now Antarctica. It was buried in a holdout mountain. It survived all night. The people there thought they were the chosen of the blighted children of ancient Terra. They believed in the spirits of death and life, an old pantheon of gods. They shot down the Emperor's first herald, and so the word-bearers attacked. Macro bombers from the air and tanks from the ground broke the mountain open, and the Astartes flowed inside. They wiped all life from the mountain after 3 hours, and only a small group, still huddled, they were sealed in and were burned by the ashen circle. The generators were overloaded, and the lava filled the mountain caverns, wiping out the faith that had once been there. The next area is the Pan-Pacific Empire, modern East Asia, Australia, and the Pacific Islands. They were ruled by Nathan Doom. Before him, they were united under Khazar to wage war against the Brotherhood of Singularitarianism. It's quite a mouthful, that one. And the Brotherhood wanted to make an AI so mankind could undergo a surge of technology to raise them from their ills. The Pan-Pacific peoples had recognized the Brotherhood, were combining their technology with demons, clearly some influence of the warp here. And so, later, the Pan-Pacific Empire, under the watch of Nathan Doom, became powerful. He wondered if the loss of knowledge of technology was good or bad. He was also aware of the warp. The Emperor came with his Thunder Warriors and defeated the Empire in several battles. The last to fall was its stronghold of Venorian Dome, was captured and executed. The former stronghold later revolted, but the city was wiped out by the Imperial army in answer. And from there the tale of the city goes on. The city was built into the walls of a series of chasms. The people did not like the imperial yoke, and along came the Crimson Walkers, a cabal of psychers, gene splicers and warlords. They began to spread a secret web across Terra, and the rebellious city was the centre of this. The Emperor ordered the Night Lords to be dispatched. They started with an orbital bombardment for 6 hours, then chemicals rained down on the people in the city from the thick clouds above, and then the Night Lords struck, butchering any they came across. The Walkers unleashed large mutants, but the Night Lords cut through with lightning claws. Their speaky grills to accompany this played the recorded suffering of those around them. Then the drop pods fell. The Walkers found themselves cut off, and many were allowed to run before they were hunted down. The Walkers were thrown into the chasm, and the city was blown from the cliff face it had so long been a part of, and those inside screamed as they followed the Crimson Walkers into the black depths. Now we come to Urartu, which was the end of major combat operations during the war, and it was there the Emperor used that moment to order his Custodes and First Legion to end the lives of the Thunder Warriors. They were dangerous and mentally unstable, despite their early benefits, and they had no place within the founding of his Imperium. And on that note, we end our look at some of the most interesting conflicts during the Unification Wars, be it the Emperor finding a common ground with somebody, or a foe worthy to negotiate with, or whether he wiped them out. I think there's some pretty interesting conflicts for him here, and I for one would love to see some of these in maybe a short Siege of Terra style series. It's like technologically enhanced Mad Max, maybe a little crazier in fact. Anyway, on that note, I'll end today's video.